Welcome to the July 2024 edition of Hunt Camp Mail. July was a month where we celebrated America's birthday and watched in horror as Donald Trump came within millimeters of losing his life. We also learned how to not holster a firearm and that slightly sloped roofs are too dangerous for presidential protection. In another unfortunate twist of fate, next month is reloading month on Desert Dog Outdoors, and I produced some great reloading videos for next month, but YouTube notified me last week that they don't appreciate my reloading content. A couple of my videos that I had planned to upload next month have to be shelved as a result of that. I was told that I could upload reloading related content, but I can't upload content that teaches you how to manufacture ammunition. Regardless, I'm going to do reloading month anyway, but with more watered down content, I guess. So with the bad news out of the way, let's get to July's mail. Our first question for the month of July 2024 is from Mike in Canada. Mike wrote, Desert Dog, we have had several negligent discharge shooting injuries near me in the last years. All of them were caused by children hunting or shooting at targets. Most of these children have a minor's firearm license and they went through safety training. Is firearm safety training beyond what a child can comprehend? That's a great question, Mike. I did a video titled A Parent's Guide to Youth Hunting that explains all of this in great detail. I highly recommend that all parents of young hunters and shooters watch that video. To your specific question, Mike, children shouldn't actually hunt until they're well into the adolescent stage of childhood, and that's usually around 11 or 12 years old. This is when the prefrontal cortex of the human brain changes and gives the child increased decision-making abilities and cognitive control over their own behavior. Teaching a child to shoot and about gun safety is perfectly fine, and I recommend it. But trusting a child to safely handle a gun is never okay. No matter how young you start a new hunter out, never trust them with a gun until they're well into their teen years and they've proven themselves. The vast majority of gunshot wounds from hunting accidents in North America involve minors handling guns. Parents that trust children too much with firearms are ultimately the ones to blame for this. And our next letter is from Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones wrote, I read somewhere that the .416 Remington Magnum case is a blown out 8mm Remington Magnum case. Am I misinformed? No, you're not misinformed. At first, though, it might seem stupid that the 8mm Rem Mag is based off the 375 H&H case, and the .416 Rem Mag is based off of the 8mm Rem Mag case. But there's a method to this madness. George Hoffman already invented the .416 Hoffman, which was a 375 H&H case with a .416 bullet in it. Remington didn't want to pay royalties or risk a claim or use that name, so they made the same thing based off of their own 8mm Remington Magnum case. Remington wanted a dangerous game cartridge with their name on it, so they found a way to copy the .416 Hoffman and put their name on it. And using the 8mm Remington Magnum as a parent case, let them accomplish that. Unfortunately, as you know, the Remington 700 platform couldn't handle the cartridge reliably, so it found a home with Winchester. And our next letter is from Carl from North Dakota. Carl wrote, I spent the entire day out on the river today and used a cheap aerosol SPS 70 sunburn preventative spray. I'm burnt all over now and mad at myself for thinking that a cheap Walmart sunscreen would work out on the water. Do you usually use clothing for sun protection, or have you found a spray that works well? I'm not light skinned at all and usually just get a tan, but it seems like I got burnt worse than if I used nothing at all. Well, Carl, if you've followed me for a long time, you know that I fish near the equator many times a year, usually standing on an open skiff out on saltwater flats, casting flies all day. And I could tell you from that experience that most American sunscreen manufacturers make crappy sunscreens. The only sunscreen that has never ever let me down is Blue Lizard. The Aussies really know how to make a sunscreen. And fortunately for us, they actually started making this in the United States too. If you want the best, in my opinion, buy Blue Lizard and never look back again. This stuff is also reef safe, which, is actually a legal requirement to enter the water in a lot of countries. And it's mineral based instead of chemical based. It's going to go on a little bit thicker than you're used to with the, your cheap copper tone, type sunscreen, and you're going to have to rub it in a little bit more. But trust me, this stuff is well worth it. And I'll put a link to this stuff in the description below. Secondly, I never use spray-on sunscreen. Not only is the application bad when you use the sprays, but most captains don't allow spray-on sunscreen on their boats. I didn't allow any spray sunscreen on my boat, and there's nothing worse than someone's overspray making the deck of your boat a slippery mess. And lastly, I always wear long sleeve sun shirts with a hood while I'm out fishing. A lot of times in addition to that, I'll wear a buff or both at the same time while I'm fishing. My days of fishing in a t-shirt or shirtless are over. Just don't fool around with the sun. It's just not worth skin cancer. And our next letter is from Jim, and Jim must not watch a lot of Hunt Camp Mail because Jim didn't say where he was from. Jim wrote, in your video, my favorite powders for 30-06, I heard you say at one point, shelf life. I have heard that term used for canned goods and some survival rations, but never with respect to gunpowder. Please amplify. What is the shelf life for gunpowder? Is it different for ball and extruded powders? Well, Jim, I believe I've answered this several times in past Hunt Camp Mails, but we'll do it again here. Stored in perfect conditions, and by perfect conditions, I mean 65 degrees Fahrenheit with 60% humidity and no UV exposure. If you store it like that, a double-based powder is going to last about 25 years on the shelf, and single-based powders might last up to 50 years. When stored in less than ideal conditions, the lifespan will be shortened to whatever extent the bad conditions are that you stored it in. Asking me about the shelf life of gunpowder is really an open-ended question because I don't know how the powder was stored or handled during its lifetime. I don't even know if the seals on the cans were broken because, that'll also affect shelf life. Other than stating that, all you can do is smell or visually inspect gunpowder to tell if it's good or bad. Good gunpowder will either have no smell or it'll have kind of that alcohol or acetone-like smell. And that's very normal for gunpowder. But bad gunpowder, if you smell it, it has a really acidic smell, that'll make your nose cringe. Visibly, if gunpowder has kind of a rust-colored or reddish or brownish powder on it, or an oily residue under the cap, it's bad. Also, if you open up a canister of gunpowder and it's clumped or there's clumping in it, it's also bad. And our next letter is from Frank from Miami Lakes, Florida. And just to let you know, Frank sent me this delicious bottle of great scotch. Thank you, Frank. Frank and Mick from Australia are two of my favorite subscribers. So thanks again, Frank. You are awesome. Frank wrote, about 10 years ago, I bought a MagnetoSpeed Chrono, downloaded Strelok Pro, and was off to the races. The shift in paradigm from bench rest at 100 or 200 yards to long distance at 500 to 1,000 yards was educational and eye-opening. I could now plot the trajectory of any bullet on the market. Even more important, what the velocity and energy would be on impact. Strelok was sanctioned last year. If you update your phone, it's no longer available. It's only accessible from old hardware. I wonder if you have any advice for your viewers. Is there a particular ballistic calculator that you prefer? So again, thank you for the letter and the bottle of scotch I'm currently indulging in. Frank, I've never used Strelok before, but I know people who use it regularly or used it before the app got banned in the United States. I've been personally using both Shooter and Applied Ballistics for many years. I use the Shooter app to do just quick ballistic tables, maybe to compare things. It's a very fast and user-friendly app, and it's been dead on for target shooting to 1,000 yards for me. But when I'm really trying to wring the best out of a rifle, I use Applied Ballistics. The features of Applied Ballistics, from the huge bullet library where Litz has verified the actual BCs of bullets, to the reticle selection, it's just a step above the rest of the shooting apps, in my opinion. The only problem is that Applied Ballistics is more complicated than the other apps on the market, and it's really going to probably turn off a lot of recreational shooters. So if I want to just compare cartridges or make a point about a cartridge, I'll use the Shooter app. But if I want to win a competition, I tend to use Applied Ballistics. But both apps have their place for what I do. And our next letter is from Craig in New Zealand. Craig wrote, I am moving to copper bullets down here in New Zealand after hitting a deer and having the bullet spray so much lead inside the animal, I lost a good bit of meat. I also don't want to risk feeding lead to my kids. I shoot a 270 Blaser R8. Do you have any experience with the 110 grain TTSX or the 129 grain LRX in 270? Between the 110 grain or 129 grain bullets, which would you recommend? Well, to tell you the truth, if I were you, I'd just shoot the 129 grain LRX. I've always felt that the velocity and power of the 130 grain bullet class in 270 Winchester was kind of its sweet spot. You get lots of energy and mass on impact without sacrificing trajectory really at all. It's a good balance. A 129 grain LRX, going just over 3,200 feet per second is going to drop any deer. There really is no reason to go lighter than that when hunting deer with a 270, in my opinion. And our next letter is from Isaac from New Zealand. And I believe this is the first time ever on Desert Dog Outdoors that we've had back-to-back Kiwis.
Oh, New Zealand, it's creepy but it's beautiful, New Zealand. 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 You're creepy but you're beautiful, New Zealand. It's creepy but it's beautiful.
Isaac wrote, I am wanting to build a 35 Whelan. Here in New Zealand, getting a 30-06 is not easy. There are limited numbers of second-hand old 30-06s. Buying a new 30-06 is also difficult. Popular brands like Browning and Winchester are very limited as to what they bring into New Zealand. I am wondering, can you build a 35 Whelan on a 30-06 based cartridge, like a 270 Win or a 25-06, as these calibers, particularly the 270, are much easier to get into this country, with a lot more rifle options available. I understand that there would probably be more work involved with the gunsmith to do this, but can it be done? Well, of course it could be done. I mean, but I'll just tell you, when I hunted on South Island, um, all the client loaner rifles were 30-06. So, there's a lot of 30-06 shooters in New Zealand. But, as you stated, maybe that ammo and rifles in 30-06, maybe it's the only place on earth where 30-06 is actually hard to find. But yes, to answer your question, any long action receiver can be used to build a 35 Whelen. But I personally think you're overcomplicating something that's very simple here. 35 Whelen brass, bullets, or even loaded ammunition is going to be incredibly hard to find in New Zealand. If you're already buying a rifle chambered in 270, why not just use that? The 270 is perfectly fine for hunting everything in New Zealand. And our next letter is from John in San Jose, California. John wrote, I recently picked up a Pre-64 Model 70 to use as a donor for a project rifle. While deciding on whether to use the factory trigger as part of the build, I came across a statement by someone who said adjusting the factory trigger below 3 pounds can result in a slam fire when cycling the bolt. I was hoping to use the factory trigger and have it set to 2.5 to 2 3/4 pounds. In light of what I need, now I'm not sure. I've tried to research this online and haven't been able to find any other specific references to this being an issue with the Model 70. So I was wondering if you had any experience with this. Yes, I do have experience with this. First of all, I'm just going to warn you not to mess with any trigger if you don't know exactly what you're doing. Adjusting a trigger is a fine balance between pull weight, sear engagement, and over travel. I've seen so many dangerous firearms over the years from home trigger jobs, so please be careful. Now, to answer your question, the danger with a pull weight of less than 3 pounds on the old Model 70s has to do with the trigger spring itself. Basically, if you go much lighter than 3 pounds on that factory spring, there'll be almost no spring tension on that trigger, and this could be a dangerous situation. But there is an easy fix for it. Just buy a cheap aftermarket spring. All of my Model 70s with the old trigger have Ernie the Gunsmith springs installed in them, and probably most of the old Model 70s out there have an Ernie spring installed in them. And you did pick a fine donor action for your rifle build. A custom rifle built on a Pre-64 Model 70 action will be something to cherish forever. And our next letter for the month is from Antonio from Los Angeles, California. Antonio asked, in one of your scope videos, a guy asked you about Trijicon AccuPoint scopes. You replied, the AccuPoint is a very fine scope. Just make sure you look through one before buying it. Many people prefer battery-powered illumination better. Why would someone prefer battery-powered illumination over the AccuPoint? Well, Antonio, many people prefer the control of a battery-powered reticle, versus a tritium one. In my experience, a really good battery-powered illuminated reticle is more forgiving than what an AccuPoint offers. Even on the dual source illumination scopes, like the upper tier AccuPoint scopes, when the light gets very low and the tritium takes over on the AccuPoint scopes, many people think that illumination is just a little bit too dim. Secondly, the tritium and fiber optic material will stop glowing well enough to be really usable in about 10 to 15 years. And during that 10 years, it'll gradually dim until your illumination really sucks. And, that reminds me, of course, I have a few ACOGs that need to be sent back to Trijicon for repower. When you send your scope in to have the tritium replaced, it'll cost you between $300 and $600 depending on your optic. And this is why everyone stays away from used acupoint scopes. And our next letter is from Mark in Phoenix, Arizona. Mark wrote, "You have a smoking hot wife. Where do I find a woman that hunts, fishes, and off-roads and actually enjoys it?" Speaking of that, you should do a video of your wife fishing or hunting in a bikini or something skimpy. Your viewers would enjoy that. Well, I'll take it up with Rebecca and see if she's down for it. But don't hold your breath. And our next letter is from Tim in Tulare, California. Tim wrote, "Hey, Desert Dog, I love your channel and watch every video. Your local how-to hunting videos are the best. We met at a Quail Forever event a few years ago, and I think you and your wife are awesome. Now all of my buddies and my brother watch your videos. My question is, where can we order Desert Dog Outdoors swag? You said that you were going to start selling shirts and hats." My wife has been thinking about developing an online shop for Desert Dog outdoor stuff, but it's been a very slow process. And keeping items in inventory, handling shipping, and doing the accounting adds another layer of work to our already busy lives. I also don't want to use some third-party outfit where quality control and customer service are out of my hands. And I want my logo on good products, not cheap novelty crap. So the time and effort it takes to do it my way might not make it worth it to me. So, I don't do things half-ass. And add to this, I told myself maybe a year or two ago, maybe when I met you, that I'd do something like that when my channel hit 100,000 subscribers, but I don't think that's ever going to happen, at least not in my lifetime. So, you never know though. Around September, I might start selling maybe hunting shirts and hats with the Desert Dog logo on them on a limited basis. I'll pick the gear and, my wife would handle the rest, and we'll just see how it goes. But, I wouldn't expect anything long-term to come out of it at this point. But, we really do need to sit down and decide whether we're going to do it or not. And, I'll make my final decision on that in the coming months. And our next letter is from John. John wrote, "As you may be aware, YouTube has recently changed their policies around firearms content. This time, banning any sponsorships from gun and gun-related companies. I don't think this will affect you, given that you don't have any sponsors, but it's a clear sign that YouTube is moving in an increasingly anti-gun, anti-hunting direction. Have you ever thought about uploading your videos to an alternative video sharing platform as a backup in the event that your channel gets deleted? I think it would be a shame if all your valuable knowledge were lost." And trust me, I'm forward thinking enough to actually consider this. It's funny that YouTube goes after firearm related sponsorships, but freely allows scammers, pyramid schemes, malware, fake property title companies, and fake game apps to advertise on their platform. But it is their private platform, and we're all here anyways, letting them make money off of us. My old channel was demonetized and deleted, so I know all too well how quickly YouTube can turn on me and any other creator covering any topic. No creator is safe on YouTube, so it's not just guns, it's any topic. As I stated in the prologue of this video, YouTube recently warned me about my reloading content. I can no longer teach you how to manufacture ammunition. And by the way, August is reloading month, so tune in. Other monetized video hunting platforms that are out, other monetized video platforms out there, kind of suck. You know, I had high hopes for Rumble, and I made an account on Rumble, started posting some videos there, but Rumble really sucks, particularly from a content creator viewpoint. YouTube is still the best platform for a content creator by a huge margin. You know, it's still a free market and people flock to the best product. And right now, I feel that YouTube still has the best product. And our next letter is from Alan from Wisconsin. Alan wrote, I saw one of the memes in your last Hunt Camp mail involving Steve Rinella and Sig Sauer. I didn't understand it, so I looked it up. Sure enough, Meat Eater dumped Weatherby and went all in on Sig. How can you call yourself credible when you talk me into buying a Weatherby rifle and shotgun, claiming that they are the best, then turn around the next year and say the crappy Sig Cross is the best? Nobody in this business is credible anymore. They are all sellouts. You know, Alan, I don't think they're all sellouts. You know, some certainly are, but I really don't think the majority of them are what we would refer to as a sellout. You know, in the end, they're running a business, and that business needs revenue. Most of that revenue comes from advertising or product sponsorships, and there would be absolutely no hunting media at all without sponsors and advertising revenue. It's just a fact of life. You know, you need to put on your blinders, ignore the product placement and fake reviews, and just enjoy the hunt. You know, if you want to participate or enjoy any hunting media these days. If you can't do that, it's probably best to avoid hunting media altogether. You know, even YouTube influencers rely on free products being sent to them so they can do reviews and have material for content. Sig, in particular, Sig Sauer, has really bought a lot of influence on a large scale. You know, they own many politicians and even military leaders right now. And, you know, they own most of the top shooters in shooting sports. And they own the world's most popular hunting celebrity now. Sig does make a few good things, but Sig also makes a lot of crappy things. So don't blindly jump on that bandwagon. You know, it's up to you to sort through the sponsored crap and shill reviews and just enjoy the content for what it is. And our next letter is from Jason from Tennessee. Jason wrote, I was looking through your library in search of more info on the 22-250. I didn't see any reviews. I did research and I'm finding a 26-inch barrel might be optimal. However, the factory rifles that offer 26-inch barrels are heavy varmint rifles. The rifles weigh 10 plus pounds. Just curious on your thoughts. Well, Jason, there's two dynamics at play here. First of all, most decisions in firearms manufacturing are made by people who specialize in marketing, manufacturing, efficiency, and sales. You know, these people have very limited firearm knowledge, yet they direct important product decisions. And this is why companies sell rifles chambered in super fast overbore cartridges and put 22-inch barrels on them. You know, this is why Tikka sells 30 caliber rifles with the wrong twist rate. You know, this is why Winchester tanked the company in 1964 and why Remington destroyed their reputation in the 1990s. Now, the other thing you need to realize is the intended and ethical use of the 22-250. This might piss you off. It might piss a lot of my viewers off, but I'm going to say it anyway. The 22-250 is a varmint cartridge, and it's not an ethical big game cartridge. A varmint rifle with a 26-inch heavy barrel is the perfect home for a 22-250, in my opinion, not a lightweight deer rifle. Companies making 22-250 rifles in a varmint platform are actually doing it right, in my opinion. The more of this scotch I drink, The more I imagine I'm spitting, I don't know if you could see that on the camera, but maybe I'm just imagining it. Who knows? And our last question for the month of July is from Marv in Indiana. Marv wrote, why do most tactical shotguns have a pistol grip, but almost all hunting shotguns have a traditional grip? Well, Marv, that's a great question. A pistol grip is better, in my opinion, for tactical CQB environments because it allows you to tuck your elbow in and have a shorter length of pull. So it's a good, tight, compact package, which is great for a CQB environment. A pistol grip also makes ambidextrous shooting easier in a fluid tactical environment. And, also a pistol grip is better for firearm retention, which could be important in a CQB environment. By contrast, a traditional stock is better for quickly pointing a gun and tracking a moving target. It helps you point naturally down the top of the bore, and it keeps your elbow up and out of the way while you're swinging the gun around. A traditional stock is also much easier to carry. It's easier to carry in port arms all day. It's easier to carry on a 2-point carry strap over your shoulder, and it's easier to carry strapped to a backpack. A traditional stock is just more comfortable and snag-free for most hunters to carry, and they prefer it for that reason also. With shotguns, almost all hunters prefer a traditional stock for the reasons I already stated. The exception would be turkey hunters. While you're turkey hunting and sitting against a tree, making a carefully aimed shot on a turkey's neck, that might be easier to do with a pistol grip on your shotgun. Well, that's it for Hunt Camp Mail for July 2024. Here's some memes for this month. If some of you who've written me letters in the last week are wondering why your letter wasn't included on Hunt Camp Mail, or I haven't maybe responded to your letter. It's because this hunt camp mail was pre-recorded a while back, maybe 4 or 5 days ago, because as you're watching this video right now, I'm currently in Belize standing on the bow of a skiff casting flies to tarpon. So sorry. I'll try to transfer a lot of those letters, which some of them were great letters, over to the August edition of Hunt Camp Mail. As I've already stated, next month is going to be reloading month on Desert Dog Outdoors. I produced some awesome videos for next month, but unfortunately, I'll have to shelve 2 of them because they actually show you some reloading techniques, and that's no longer allowed on YouTube. So even though reloading month will kind of be watered down, I'll do my best to keep it interesting regardless. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and enable notifications so you don't miss those videos. You can contact me with any questions or comments at desertdogoutdoors@gmail.com. Thank you for watching, and as always, good hunting.